Hello, this is Purge, bringing you guys a first-person replay commentary. This is an SF game. This was chosen by you guys voting on the forums. Just go to my website, purgegamers.true.io, go to the forums, go to the pick which hero Purge plays next, and right now SF is winning that one. Purgegamers.true.io, go to the forum, and choose the next hero for Purge to play. Right now, SF is... Oh, SF got passed, actually, by Broodmother. He's at 157. Broodmother's in the lead, 166. So I'll do Brood next. We have Omni, Windranger, Brewmaster, Batrider. I actually like a lot of these upcoming heroes. So that should be fun to do. Cool. So SF is a hero that is literally not played in this meta at all. He's not touched. Nobody plays him. I think he's almost entirely unpicked in the pro scene for all of 6.8.7 or whatever the heck our patch currently is. People just don't play him. He got nerfed in two major ways in the last patch. The first one was that Ray's mana cost went from 75 to 90. Normally Ray's, we'll hop into the Dota buff section to talk about this, that way I can show stats on the actual bits and pieces. But again, I'm doing the Dota buff section because Dota buff is a sponsor of mine, but it's also a very good resource, so continuing with that. Shadow Fiend's probably arguably best skill, one of the best skills in the game is Shadow Rays. With one skill point, you get access to 3 different nukes. Now, the way Shadow Rays works is that you've got 3 of them, and they all are different range. So if I pan from each to each, the only thing that's changing is the range between all of these. One of them has a range of 200 with an AoE. I actually don't know what the AoE of the Rays is, but it's pretty big. Range 200, range 450, and range 700. So he's got 3 different Shadow Raises. So with 4 skill points, you have access to 3 nukes, which is amazing. Because normally that takes, what, 12 skill points? Or not 12, 4, 8, 12. It is 12. 12 skill points to get 3 different nukes. But Shadow Fiend only needs 4 skill points to get 3 nukes. The only thing that limits that, obviously, is that the person has to be moving from each range to each range. Or you have to adjust your movement speed or your movement every time you raise. So with 4 skill points, you can have up to 975 magic damage. That's a shitload of damage at level 7 that you can have. It's very high. Before these cost 75 mana, so you could do a full cycle with 225 mana. Now they cost 90 each, which means 270. So it's a difference of about, what is that, 45 mana, something like that? 45 mana to cast, extra to cast 3 Shadow Raises. So Shadow Rays, really, really good skill. First of all, they raised the mana cost, and the other thing that nerfed Shadow Fiend was the anti-jungle stacking that existed, that was put in, where the Small Centaurs, for example, has a 20% magic resistance aura, and what else has it? The Small Hellbear, the Gold Hellbear Smasher, the Gold Hellbear has a magic resistance aura. So now if you 4-5 stack a large camp, you can't just triple raise it and it all dies. Now it takes 3 to 4 raises, so not only is the mana cost gone up, but also takes more raises to actually clear a stacked camp. So these 2 nerfs, I think one of them was deserved for sure, because Shadow Fiend was one of the most popular heroes in the previous patch from the pro scene. But both nerfs were, I think, a little too strong. It limits his laning stage just a bit too much. He still farms incredibly rapidly, but he does need to do some jungling to make up for it. And the increased mana cost of Shadow Rays means that he can't even spam out creep waves as well. There was also a nerf to Bottle, which you could argue also affected him, actually, because it doesn't heal as much. So because Shadow Fiend is not really the best 1v1 laner, there's a lot of heroes that can outplay him. I think that mana increase really hurt him in a lot of different ways. So that's Shadow Rays. Shadow Rays is Shadow Fiend's first skill. His second skill is Necromastery. Every time you get a last hit, whether a creep or a deny, it gives you a soul, and you can hold up to 36 souls. Every single soul that you have, you get plus 2 damage. So at max souls, with 4 points in Necromastery and 36 souls gained, you have a bonus of 72 physical damage. That's right-click damage. It's a plus damage. It doesn't increase your base damage, so it doesn't get increased further with percentage-based damage increase items. But it's a very, very good skill to have, because if you do get a lot of last hits in your lane, you should be able to outlast hit your opponent very well. Another cool part that was added sometime in the last 2 years, if you get a hero kill, you get 12 souls. Before, you'd only get 1 for that, but I like that if you get a hero kill, you get 12 souls. So this is most important in terms of laning stage. If Shadow Fiend kills his opponent, he can usually pump up his souls to max, because usually in the laning stage, your souls, the amount of souls you have is usually not going to be at your max souls. You have to be stomping your lane for that to happen. And that can be happening at lower MMRs, but at higher MMRs, Shadow Fiend is a bit weaker in terms of laning. He's also very weak to ganks since he doesn't have a stun or a disable, and he's not very fast. In fact, his move speed's okay, it's 305, but his base armor is almost non-existent, and his base damage is very low. Once he gains souls, his damage goes up a lot, obviously, but that has to happen first. His stat gain overall is very good, 2 strength, 2.9 agility, and 2 int. So he gets a lot of stats overall. Okay, with that said, his third skill is Presence of the Dark Lord. You will not skill this early. It does a minus armor aura in an area around you, similar to like an AC, up to minus 6 armor. The best thing about this aura is it allows you to do a lot of damage against carries that use BKB, because those heroes are usually then weak to armor, or to physical damage, because they're not spending their items as much on things like agility items to increase their armor, or armor items to increase their armor. So if Shadow Fiend does go BKB, so if you're a BKB Shadow Fiend matching up against a carry that also goes BKB, usually Shadow Fiend will counter those heroes because those heroes have BKBs in most cases because they need to be able to use their their spells and things like that, whereas Shadow Fiend is more of a hybrid right-click nuke hero. So he's very weak on disables, but he's very high in damage. The way your ultimate works is it's based on the amount of souls you have with Necromastery, and after a 1.67 cast time, it shoots out an AoE. You're shooting your souls out. You don't lose your souls or anything like that, but it shoots out more nukes based on how many souls you have. It does 80 to 160 damage per soul, I believe, and I think it are per 2 souls. For every 2 souls in your position, you shoot out a nuke. So let's say level 16. You've got level 3 Requiem of Souls. You do 160 damage per 2 souls. That means you should do half of 36, which is 18. So you should do 18 times 160, which if I do the math, 18 times 160 equals 2,880 magic damage. I am not entirely sure if that's entirely correct. It's very hard to get all the souls to land on somebody because they all go out in different directions. So the only way that works is if you're right on top of somebody. And again, that's going to get reduced by magic resistance as well. So I think I don't know if my calculations are wrong or if it's just incredibly difficult, because it's for every 2 souls, you get a maximum of 18 lines. I did that part right. So it's 18 times 160. So after reduction, it's 2,160 magic damage, which is a shitload of magic damage. If you can actually do damage this way, then Requiem of Souls is amazing. But the only way it works is if you are phased, aka you're on top of somebody's hero. I think that would only work with like phase boots, Shadow Blade, Invis stuff like that, or if your opponent has phase boots, etc., and they're on top of you. So that's where Requiem of Souls gets good. It also reduces movement speed by 25% for 5 seconds, and also reduces damage, base damage, not spells, by 50% for 5 seconds. So it's very good. It has a huge AoE, giant radius. It basically catches the whole screen. So in a lot of fights, you kind of just want to cast this to reduce the damage of your enemies, as well as lowering their movement speed slightly. It'll help you land raises. So I'll talk about how I misused this skill a little bit this game, but other times that I did do it right. And like in the early game, it's better just to cast it from out of sight range a little bit, because even though it won't do a lot of damage, it'll still reduce their damage and also lower their movement speed. Can really help out in team fights a bit. Okay. Oh yeah, and the last thing to mention about Requiem of Souls is that if you have this skilled and you die, you do a minium Requiem. Like, it does half the damage, I believe, of a regular Requiem. So when you're getting killed and people are on top of you, you'll usually do some damage as you die. But when you do die, you lose half of your souls. That's the way Necromastery works. So you have to gain them back after you die. That's important. Okay, so that's everything about his skills. We talked about his base stats. Let's talk about the skill build. The skill build is basically this. You max out Shadow Rays ASAP, always by 7, without... There's no case where you would not max Shadow Rays by 7. You just don't do it. It's wrong. The skill is way too good for what it gives you. It gives you 3 nukes for 4 skill points. That's amazing. Huge skill. Very good for farming. You also will max out Necromastery usually by 8. There might be some cases where you won't get it by 8, but in almost all cases you will have 4 points in Shadow Rays and 4 points in Necromastery. In almost all cases. That's because you want to increase your base damage as fast as possible, so your right click farms faster and you deal more right click in team fights. And you want Rays to be maxed out as fast as possible so that you can farm as fast as possible. It's basically your way to accelerate into items. You don't need to buy Midas on this hero because he already farms fast enough by himself. But yeah, this is essentially your Midas. Shadow Rays is your Midas. It gets you leveled up fast. You can basically push a creep wave very rapidly. 2 raises will kill an entire creep wave if you time it perfectly. You can do the long raise first, and then do the medium raise as they walk a bit more, and boom, 4 creeps are dead for 180 mana, and then you go back to the jungle to farm, basically. Your third skill is usually grabbed at level 10. You grab Requiem of Souls at level 9 immediately after your first 2 skills because it increases your nuke potential. And you also get the Death Requiem. And then afterwards, grab your ultimate whenever you can and then finish maxing out Presence of the Dark Lord so you have as much minus armor as possible. A good example of a hero that SF is good against that has BKB is Lifestealer. Lifestealer has Rage, which makes him magic immune. Well, if you do minus 6 armor to Lifestealer, and you do a lot of physical damage because of Necromaster, you're still pretty good against Lifestealer. So that's a good example of a hero that you're good against that gets BKB. Stat levels after that point, just totally normal stuff. You could maybe argue for an early Presence of the Dark Lord in the laning stage, but there's almost no cases where people do this because it does push your wave. So especially if you're playing carry Shadow Fiend, which you probably shouldn't do, it's very, very uncommon. You normally play mid. Just don't get Presence of the Dark Lord early. It's just generally not worth it. So common items. Power treads are very good because you can tread switch to int, for example, which increases your mana pool. In fact, I think I'm going to make a spreadsheet really quick to just show you guys how tread switching works to just demonstrate the value. So I'm just going to pause this really quick. Be right back. Alright, I'm back. I took about a 3-hour detour here to figure out exactly how tread swapping work. I'll show you guys, or I'll save you from all of the equations and stuff. Maybe I can make another video about that if you guys want to see how I got to the final equation. But this is the final equation that I arrived on as I did all the math on everything. So the way that tread swapping works for all heroes, or and not necessarily just tread swapping, this counts for any heroes that drop items or decrease or increase their HP or their health pool or their mana pool before they regen, and that counts changing from strength to agility, for example, or from dropping a vitality booster which lowers your HP, or by dropping an energy booster or your arcane boots. All of those things will alter this, but the way it works is there's the equation B multiplied by the difference, or the it's basically the M over M, the big M over small m minus 1. That's finding a percentage difference between your highest HP point and your lowest HP point. This works for either mana or HP, by the way. So you find a percentage difference, and then you multiply it by the amount of mana that you heal, or the amount of HP you heal. So for example, if you're playing Shadow Fiend and you have, we'll say, a 400 mana pool, and with treads on int, you have a mana pool of 517, because 9 int gives you 117 mana. So if you have 9 int on treads, with treads, that gives you 517. You divide 517 by 400, and that should give us, let me just do the math really quick. 517 divided by 400 gives us an increase of about 29.25% of mana. You subtract that by 1, so you get a decimal of 0.29, and you multiply that decimal by the amount of mana you heal. So in this case, I'll multiply that by, actually maybe the -1 doesn't need to be there. Is that wrong? Oh yeah, that's extra, because it's clear. Okay, good. So basically we multiply 29, we increase the amount we regen by 29%. So if I take my int treads and I switch them to strength, so my mana pool lowers, and then I bottle up, the bottle that would normally give me 60 mana still gives me 60 mana, but because I'm on strength, it gives me an extra 29.25% regen, basically, if all of the spells that I cast are on int when I cast them. So I'm multiplying that number by 60, which is how much mana one bottle charge gives you. So that gives me 77.55 mana. So rather than giving yourself 60 mana whenever you use a bottle, if you're on strength treads or agility treads, you actually gain 77.55 mana. So whenever you cast spells, not only are the spells cheaper, they take a smaller percentage of your total mana pool, but when you use bottle, it also refills them faster. So that's why treads is so good on Shadow Fiend, because with the power treads, you're getting more value out of your bottle, you're able to raise more often, because again, let's say I'm hypothetically putting my mana pool from 400 to 515 or whatever, then I can divide 515, or 90 divided by 515, I know that wasn't exactly the number, but that was about that. That's about 17.4% of your mana pool to cast one raise, whereas at 400, if I do 90 divided by 400, we're looking at 22.5%. So you're spending like an extra percentage of your mana pool if you're casting spells that when you aren't on int treads. Now if you go phase boots, tranquil boots, all that other stuff, it's not as easy to abuse bottle, but you still can drop other things. You can drop ironwood branches, you can drop bracers, You can drop a Wraith Band, you can drop your Arcane Boots, for example. There's a lot of different ways that you can abuse Bottle, or you can abuse Temporary Regen. Keep in mind that while you're doing that, you have to have that item on the ground, so usually you're standing still while you do it. But that's what's so nice about Treads. You can be walking while you're doing it because they're switching the Treads to Agility, which means it's not going to increase your HP and it's not going to increase your mana pool. So while you're bottling, you're getting extra value. This equation applies for any HP or MP gain, so if you guys are ever curious about how it works, it's actually quite simple. The percentage difference between your higher stat point and your lower stat point, and multiply that by the amount regen. So that is what I spent the last 3 hours on. If you guys want to see like a full like how I figured that out from base to the last level, it basically reminded me of whenever I sat in physics lectures in college. It was like what I did was basically what we were showed in physics lectures. But I thought the equation was more complicated than this, but eventually I figured out how to simplify it. So okay, so that's what you should be doing. Tread swapping. Alright, that's why treads are so good. Other items that are very common for Shadow Fiend. I'm going to try to figure out where I was 3 hours ago. But other common early items for Shadow Fiend, it's not Boots of Travel. Early Boots of Travel is knockout on SF. You need to focus on getting very survivable early on, and you need to translate that into kills, almost always. So Ring of Aquila is an absolutely great early game item. It gives you 15 damage. You get 9 damage, actually more than that. It gives you 9 damage and 9 agility. That's 18 damage. For any agility hero, it gives you a total of 4.5 armor, 3 armor from 1 armor base, 2 armor aura, that's 3, 9 agility is another armor point, and then 3/7 of another armor. So it gives you 4 and 3/7 armor. That's a lot of armor. It gives you an extra 57 HP. It gives you an extra 36 mana. Ring of Aquila, great item for Shadow Fiend, and not to mention also gives you the aura mana regen, which gives you more mana over time, which means you might have more mana for a raise, which makes you farm faster. So early items, Magic Wand is really good. The extra heal is very important. Again, you don't have a disable, so if people attack you, you surviving for longer is going to mean that you're going to be able to do more damage, because again, your right clicks are very heavy and your nukes are very good. Other than that, you could potentially get a drum if you're really far behind, but I think no Shadow Fiend ever buys that because you run out of items too fast. If you want to buy a mobility item, it's almost always Sanjin Yasha. So your first item, for example, you either are going to buy Blink Dagger, Sanjin Yasha, or Shadow Blade is usually what you do. If it's a really bad game, you can maybe get a Black King bar first, but in almost all cases, you should be able to buy another item that's about medium cost, SNY, Shadow Blade, or Blink Dagger before you need to go for the BKB. If you're forced into the BKB right away and all you have is like Treads, Aquila, Wand, BKB, your HP's not super high. It's kind of in a dangerous area, so I would kind of feel like a BKB that early is weak. But depending on how the game is going, you can go BKB first. It's possible. I'm just not a huge fan of it because I think that that basically 13 to 20 minute mark is usually more about ganking than it is about team fighting. So I recommend going gank items instead, which would be Shadow Blade or Blink. Whereas SMI is more of like it gives you team fight capabilities, but it also gives you gank capabilities because you run so fast. So it's kind of a mix of the two items, and this item will scale you better, definitely, in terms of you passively farming, because it makes you run from camp to camp faster. Shadow Blade, however, is better for ganking by far, and Blink Dagger is a mix of farming because you blink from camp to camp occasionally, and you can also use it to gank and team fight and all this stuff. But it's a little bit more scary because if they initiate on you, then it's worthless. So the point of the Shadow Blade and the Blink is to move around the map and get kills if possible. And with those kills, you'll mix your kills into also farming. So much like I talked about when I did that replay commentary of the... What hero was that? The PL. You should spend your time farming in a jungle camp, occasionally come out, get a kill. Sometimes farming aggressively in the enemy jungle is really good. Especially with Shadow Blade, this is possible because your opponents very likely aren't going to know that you're there. So you can pop out of the jungle, get a kill. You can do like break invis to hit. Make sure you do hit. It does 175 bonus damage. Bonus hit with Shadow Blade. Do a double raise, for example, or a hit, raise, hit, for example, will usually kill a support early in the game. But with the SB, you should be getting kills. Don't forget, you can also do Shadow Blade into Requiem kills. What you should do is wait until your opponent's standing still, Shadow Blade, stand right on top of them, and then cast your ultimate. And then they get hit with more of these souls, because if they're standing right on top of you and the souls radiate out from you, if you're right in the middle of them, all of the souls will hit them. So casting Requiem close by somebody is a really good way to start a team fight. It's probably how you guys mostly see Shadow Fiends. They get that first Shadow Blade, they do a Requiem when you guys are pushing a tower, and the whole fight ends. So after that Shadow Blade, or SNY, or Blink, you'll buy a BKB, in almost all cases, because you need to not get stunned, you need to be able to right-click, all that good stuff. You need to also be able to cast your ultimate, which is has a cast delay. That's a channeled spell. Well, it's not a channeled spell because if they cancel it, it doesn't get canceled, but it does have a cast delay. So it's a very long animation, basically. Other items that you get after that, Eye of Scotty is almost always the purchase after that point because it gives you generic very good stats, increases your armor, your HP, your damage, gives you a mobility slow, which is important because you don't have a slow. So Scotty is almost always your third item. Sometimes you will have a Helmet Dominator as well, somewhere in there, because it allows you to stack Ancients. You can Ancient decently fast. And also having some lifesteal can be good if you're against a carry that you're having trouble killing rapidly, because you will at some point need lifesteal on the hero. The ideal position for Shadow Fiend to be in is to farm incredibly fast. You get very tanky, you have a lot of physical right click, you've got a bunch of nukes, you've got some good team fight, you've got a BKB, and then you get a little bit of lifesteal, and if you get a slight item advantage over your opponents, you pick up a Satanic. That way, if they don't kill you during their initiation, you can BKB Satanic, or after your BKB ends, you can Satanic, for example, to heal back up to full. So Satanic at some point is definitely an item choice. Sanjinyasha is great. Butterfly is definitely another item. Basically, Shadow Fiend is a hybrid tank agility carry hero. Is kind of how he works. He already does quite a bit of damage based on his base skills. Necromastery gives you plus 72. Presence of the Dark Lord gives you basically -6 in AC. But you synergize that with becoming tanky and hard to kill and maybe getting some lifesteal in there as well. And again, Butterfly is great because of the evasion that you get. You can maybe buy a Manta style if they have it silenced and you don't want to have to BKB for it. There's a lot of different items that Shadow Fiend can buy. You can buy Monkey King Bar if you need it for a damage item instead of an Eye of Scotty. You can get a Daedalus some games. You can go Daedalus Satanic. You can go just Sanjinyasha Scotty BKB or Sanjinyasha BKB Scotty into Butterfly. Or there's so many different ways that you can build SF after the early game. But the first couple items are pretty important. Now here's your good against. There's actually, these are pretty weak percentages. You're probably good against Warlock because he can't get away from you very easily. So if you Shadow Blade gank him, he can't get away. Also, you can kill the Golem pretty fast because you have lots of physical damage and minus armor, so that dies rapidly. Silencer, you buy BKB, so Silencer doesn't really bother you that much. Not to mention, again, he can't stop you from attacking him. Undying, not quite sure. Probably you kill Tombstone pretty easy, but the rest of the heroes are probably not worth pointing out. Heroes you're bad against are just heroes that have good offensive potential. So it's kind of cool that Shadow Fiend is just good against everybody, kind of, and not super countered by everybody. He is weak to ganks. That is by far the hardest thing. If you get ganked a lot in the laning stage, you are in trouble. That is how you have to be careful about Shadow Fiend. So again, good stats, totally normal vision, all that stuff. Again, really bad base damage, but it goes up as you get more and more last hits. Keep in mind that sometimes you can grab Shadow Raise at level 1. I did that in this replay because I was up against an OD who had like 20 more base damage than I did at level 1, so I wanted to Shadow Raise, that way I could be at least a little competitive with last hits and keep my levels up versus my opponent, because otherwise he would over-deny me and I would hit levels slower than him, and that could hurt my snowball. And some other Shadow Fiend players, what they do is they go a little bit cheap on the early items. They don't get a Wraith Band first, they'll go like Ironwood branches, like 2 Ironwood and a Circlet, and get a fast bottle. That way they can use bottle spam with raises to get more last hits. But I did, I don't necessarily think my starting item build was good here. I think I should have gone 2 Ironwood with a Circlet, 2 pooled Tangos, bring myself a Salve into a fast bottle. If I would have done that instead, then I think I would have been better positioned against this OD, but it didn't matter that much. Alright, to talk about the hero meta statistics here, and we are going to look for Shadow Fiend. He has a pretty awful win rate right now, a 43.5% win rate at 5k MMR and above. This is really bad. He's unplayed at the highest MMR. I'm not quite sure what this was in previous patches. What if okay, apparently I can only do 3 months ago, and I think that still included the old patch, so I don't think this is worth checking out, but for older positions. But he's got a really bad win rate right now, and that's because of the 2 nerfs to his farming ability. There's a lot of mid heroes that beat him in a 1v1, and he can catch up and farm in the jungle and things like that, but it's a little difficult, and there's a lot of heroes mid that can just bully him over and over again. If you get behind mid when you're Shadow Fiend, you can't really stop it in a lot of cases, because they're going to continue killing you. So the important thing is doing okay until you hit about level 5 to level 7, and then you can just raise every wave in your set. And I just want to take a moment to be really upset that you guys voted Shadow Fiend so high, because I've only played 25 SF games, and I barely played him at all in Dota 1. Oops. And I have a abysmal win rate of 40%, which is pretty awful. And actually I have very low KDA here, 2.24. My Shadow Fiend is not good. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys how Raise worked. Probably should have done that. It's basically a skill shot. I explained that it was an AoE. It is an AoE, and they have different ranges, but it's a skill shot. You have to aim where you hit it. It's all based on where your hero is turning. That's the hardest thing about Shadow Fiend. It makes it very difficult to raise accurately, and against good players who are moving. If players are moving a lot, it's very difficult to land raises. Not to mention that your cast time is decently high on raise, so opponents can see it coming, but it's kind of difficult to deal with. Okay, with that said, let's hop into the game here. Oh yeah, one other thing, just a quick Dota buff shout out here. There's a new setting thing for the achievements. This is a new thing. It basically is just a bunch of fake points, but you can get a bunch of achievements things like, oh, I have to win so-and-so against Nature's Prophet, blah, blah, blah. It goes all in here. You get arbitrary points, and I've already completed like 500 just from playing Dota over the years, stuff like that. So there's a bunch of cool achievements that if you guys want to try to beat, this is all active now. You don't need Dota Buff Plus for this, just letting you guys know that it's here. And of course, Dota Buff is my sponsor. Okay, so we're going to remove this. We're going to hop into the game really quick. And I'm going to speed things up. Now, there's a couple tricks that you can do on Shadow Fiend with raising to make it a little bit easier. I think that's one of the problems with how I play him, is that I'm not using the abusive trick. And it's one thing that makes hitting raises harder. So I won't go into a game and show this to you guys, but I'm just going to... Oh, what does this mean? There was this bug thing where like 3 people disconnected at the start, I think. Do I have to restart this? Does this mean it's bugged, guys? Okay, I do believe my replay is entirely bugged. I'm going to restart this. One sec. I have no idea what's going on with this replay, but it's pretty weird. Let me try to fix this. Oh, thank God I got it to work. I had to delete the file and re-download it, but it's working. It was so messed up. I thought I was gonna have to like play another Shadow Fiend game. I probably gotten abandoned because you guys made me play Shadow Fiend. I played this one game and I was against an Ember Spirit mid and he killed me like 5 times before 10 minutes. 2 to 3 of those my fault, 2 of which were ganks. In reality though, it should have been less because I shouldn't have let him kill me the first time. But I learned some new things about Shadow Fiend playing those games. The Shadow Fiend Ember matchup. Anyways, luckily he ended up this AM on my team is pretty big rage. He ended up reporting me because I died so much, and he was very salty. So he told me he reported me, and I'm guessing he reported me. So see if I got reported. Anyways, Wraithband first. I probably should have gone with my team to guarantee I get a bounty rune, but with this many stunners here, it's just not safe for me to mess with this. I also canceled 2 attacks there. Probably should have attacked. Go to creep wave. Blocking is ultra important here because since my base damage is low, I need to make sure that it's in a good position. I didn't actually see that he warded there. I see it on the map, obviously, messed up my block, which means that I'm going to have an even harder time in the mid lane. If this creep wave is, for example, at this level, then he would be attacking uphill, and I would be attacking downhill, for example, which means I'm more likely to get last hits, and less likely for him to harass me. Now, because Raze does 100 damage at level 1, it also means that if I really want a last hit, he won't be able to stop me from getting it.
It was never yours.
And unfortunately, with the skill build that I went, it also means that I won't be able to get souls for every last hit. But I have gotten 2 last hits because having raises. Again, I think the skill build that I went didn't match up with the item build that I went. If I wanted to go the skill build, what I needed to do is I needed to get the fast bottle, and the fast bottle you don't get from getting a Wraithband. The Wraithband is gotten to give you as much plus damage as possible. So what I tried to do basically didn't match up at all with what my skill build was. So now I'm collecting souls. Every time I get a last hit, I get 2 more damage. So that'll be pretty good. He's lowering my mana pool a little bit every time he right clicks me, but it doesn't scare me that much because my damage is still high because of the fact that I am a agility hero. And I'll use the rest of my mana to get last hits because now I've got plus 6 damage. So I'm hitting for 46 plus 9, whereas Odie's hitting for 65 plus 3. So that's 68 damage about. Whereas I'm hitting for... I just got 2 quick last hits here. I kind of outlasted him a lot in this short period of time. So now I'm hitting for about the same damage that he is, which means that I should be a lot more competitive. I'm still waiting on my bottle to come because I still don't have the mana. Oh, I should have gotten at least one of those. I missed all three. That was really bad. Forcing him to not get last hits is also decent for me, so I don't feel terrible about it. But whenever he leaves the lane like that, it's really important to get all the last hits if possible. It's a little sad about that one. And he has a double damage, just a little hard to deal with. I still hit really hard, but I'm not going to hit as well as a DD, so now I have to basically raise for last hits because I'm not going to be in range, and then I wasted all my mana. I should have gone a little bit earlier for that. But I just have to be really worried about him trading hits with me because I obviously can't trade hits with him right now because he hits so much harder than me. I can trick him a little bit about last hitting like that. I can start force denying something that he wasn't expecting to get force denied. But with my bottle coming out, every bottle charge I use gives me 2/3 of a raise. So that's the important thing to keep in mind. He also has a bottle way earlier than me. No, he actually doesn't have it yet, but eventually he does get a bottle. I know. And ideally, I would want to be standing close to my tower at all times, because it means it's a lot harder for me to gank. And whenever he does play aggressive like this, it makes me assume that he wants to banish me. And with a banish, what he can do is set up a kill for his allies. So ideally, I pretty much always want to be kind of close to my tower, no matter what happens. And sometimes Shadow Fiend shit talks for you. And I'm just buttering these up a little bit, because I want to try to get 2 last hits with it. And I did. I was hoping to get a little bit more. Maybe should have peppered those up a bit more before I went for it. I attacked pretty slow there. Yeah, as soon as the catapult comes in, I knew I was going to get that last hit. I'm okay trading hits with him high ground. I think his mana pool is really low at this point. He is going to be able to get top rune based on his positioning right now, but I wanted to nuke the wave just to hopefully get a bit more out of that. And I also stayed around just for like one more creep of experience, which I probably shouldn't have done. The reality is that their support did actually rotate and deny my rune, which means that I don't get free mana. If I would have walked there about 3 seconds earlier, I might have been able to get it. Looks like it was Sanking that grabbed it. But normally what you need to do is you need to plan ahead when runes are coming up, because if the supports are doing the right thing, they should be standing on that spot as soon as the gank comes. We did know that he had an invis here, but my supports actually did gank for me, and that was really nice. Even though it wasn't successful, it now prevents OD from using that invis offensively against me, for example. And that's pretty nice to have. If OD's out of the lane though, I should get every last hit. So I'm missing this a little bit here. Up to 22 souls right now, which I think is my max. It is. And I'm gonna bottle crow. The proper way to bottle crow is that you use the surge when the courier is running back to base, because he's max movement speed with the speed boost on. I'm gonna raise this here. I didn't know if I was gonna get that one creep, but I was able to. And this is basically how you beat any person in lane now. Before I move on to that, finish the bottle thought. Always speed burst when it's got the bottle in it because it runs slower. Don't speed burst when it's coming to you to pick up the bottle. It's way more valuable if it's speed bursting on the way back to base. So I had to do that because they were in control basically. So, anyways, the way that you basically beat anybody mid with Shadow Fiend is you do decent enough until you get a couple raise levels, and then you just out push everybody. Got myself a clarity potion here, because I wanted to get my mana pool up, but he did banish me, so I'm going to take damage here, and that will kill my clarity. So I actually got no value out of my clarity, but you see, I can just double raise, or I can single raise the creep wave, and it limits his ability to get last hits. I've got a rune coming up in 10 seconds. I should have been bottle prepping for this, because I want to make sure the wave is pushed. If he just heads top right now, he would get the rune over me, probably. I did a double raise here because I wanted to get both, and then he banishes me, but there's a creep wave. So he hasn't... At that point, once I nuke the creep wave, he has an option, basically. If he walks top rune, then the creep wave... Before I nuke the creeps, that is. This was really unfortunate. Again, I was just a little bit late. If I would have bottled to prep for the time, I would have pushed the wave in time, and then I would have gotten to the rune spot at 6 minutes. I really need to start getting there early. It just shows that I'm not a very good... I'm not a very common mid player. I'm not a good mid player because I don't do that enough. But if he hasn't nuked the wave yet, let me just talk about this before I get to something else. If the creep wave is static, and I nuke the creep wave, and the creep wave's pushed to the tower, he can either walk to the rune with creeps falling, which is bad for him, because if we get into a fight, I have creeps backing me up. Or what he can do is just walk there before I nuke the wave, and then the creeps will tank the tower. The tower will tank the creeps, that is. And then he loses tower HP. So what he did there instead was that somebody from his top lane rotated, grabbed the rune. And I wasn't able to go there because I had a ward. I saw that. So I went bot instead, and the other support grabbed it. So their supports were shutting me down a little bit. But it's also because I was getting there late. So if I was better about prepping my mana pool to nuke the wave 10 seconds before the rune spawns, I could double nuke the wave, walk to bot, grab the rune, go top. And then maybe if Sanking's there, he bro strikes me and he steals it. But maybe he doesn't steal it, for example. So what I basically did hurt me in the mid lane because I wasn't prepping enough to go to runes. Pretty easy kill there for me. I'm just gonna go high ground here. I just pulled my tech back to guarantee the last hit because I knew that we were gonna get that kill. And with that kill, it also does max on my souls. I don't know if they were before or not. But now that I have level 4 raises, I do way more damage with raise. So I missed one last hit there, but I got the other ones. And I also picked up a Sage's Mask, just increased my mana pool by a little bit. A little surprised to see this guy diving past tower like this. And I got the melee raise off on him. I'm pretty worried about dying though. I maybe could have bottled up. I think... Nah, I don't think that would have worked. It would have taken me at least like 2 raises to make that work, but doing a lot of damage to the PL is pretty worth it if he doesn't have regen, and he actually doesn't, he just had a mango, so that forced him to go back to base immediately after TPing in, so that was easily more worth it for me than him, I think. I did lose the last hit by going for that creep, but early items, Magic Wand, Aquila, Bottle, Brown Boots, you can go treads earlier or later. I'm prepping for the top rune, I was really hoping I could get it, and I didn't want to lose this creep wave of experience, so I decided to walk mid and nuke it, which is maybe a little bit greedy, because again, I'm not the rune at the timer, but as long as nobody grabs this, then I'm good. If somebody grabs this as I'm about to grab it, then I die, if I can't TP back in time. So, with a haste, what you should be... Haste is basically a free kill rune, if you're playing mid. In some cases, invis is as well. Most cases, invis is as well. Double damage for some heroes is also. But because the creep wave is in kind of a poor area right now, I just decided to jungle for a bit. And this is basically what you can do, occasionally, with Shadow Fiend, because I just used 2 spells, 180 mana to kill a stack, and that's pretty useful. I think I popped haste here, just in case he got away. I probably should have waited half a second because the last Maledict did kill him. But it did get me back to mid a little bit faster, I guess. I lost about 2 creeps here. I kind of wanted to hit the OD a little bit. I did get experience for that, at least. So I was asking Blitz about this, about Shadow Fiend versus a OD mid, and he basically said that OD shouldn't be losing this matchup to me, and he definitely is. I have about 18 more CS than he does, and I think my net worth is surely higher, by a lot actually. I also have 2 kills, that's part of the reason, but he said that OD shouldn't lose to an SF mid. Part of it is that OD should be able to set up and banish me when I'm out of position, and that should lead into supports stunning me, so the supports should have roamed on me better. That's number 1. It's easily the first thing that his team could have done better. I wanted to get 3 nukes here. Like, this is exactly what's happening. 4-second banish, now I'm ultra out of position, people rotate over, no chance of me living, so I died here. This was, that basically happened because I had a bad raise there. Because I wanted to catch the range creep, I went into melee range, I did a short range raise. No matter what, that was dangerous, because he could banish me for 4 seconds, anybody could TP and kill me. So that was just really greedy for me. I did get the last hits at least, but dying like that is really not good. It also let OD catch up by a little bit. So really good cast here. Didn't know if this was going to quite work out, and it actually did. Don't remember if the Lich died or not. TPing back to mid to continue farming. I'm also I lost half my souls because I died there. Pretty important. And now that I have treads, I basically want to go in treads whenever I cast spells. Run away from him whenever he comes forward to banish me. He basically accomplished nothing with that banish. And then now that I've pushed the wave up, this would be a good time to go to the large camp, stack the large camp, go back mid to farming, or I can stack the large camp and then kill it is another option. I accidentally walked in here a little bit early, so this means I have to wait until about 53 to walk out. If I walked out left earlier than that, then they would start leashing. But because I stood within their original camp, they didn't leash. And it looks like there's an epic gank set up mid, so I need to come back mid and push. Probably should have used my medium raise there rather than the long range raise. The long range raise is really good for ganking usually, so I think that would have been a little smarter. And again, when I'm bottling, I go to agility shreds. Long range raise, couple right clicks, pretty easy kill. I'm gonna give some regen. This was a very interesting chain frost. Couple tower hits. And just to calculate how much mana I'm getting by tread swapping, by the way. Alright, so I've got 650 mana when I'm in treads, and I think a moment ago I was at, well, I can just subtract, just calculate how much extra mana I'm getting from tread swapping. 9 times 13 equals 117, so 117 minus 650. 650 minus 117 equals 533. Okay, so it's 650 divided by 533 equals a 21.9% increase of mana. So that means if I multiply that by the 60 mana that my bottle gives me, that means I'm getting 73.17 mana right now whenever I use a bottle charge if I'm on agility treads. So that alone is giving me quite a bit more mana. So whenever I'm tread swapping for a bottle usage, I always will go for int. Really important you do that. And again, whenever I cast a spell, I have a lot more mana for Shadow Raise. So even though this is basically the stage of the game where it's really, really important to tread switch. Late in the game, it doesn't matter as much because the amount of int or HP that your treads is changing is very low. But you can change that based on the items you drop, for example. But in the early game, it's a really big deal. The early game, early mid game, it can completely make a difference over the course of the game. Like if I hadn't been treads bottling my last couple bottle ticks over the course of me respawning, then I probably would have like 70 less mana right now. That could be the difference between having enough for a raise later and not having enough for a raise. It makes a huge difference. So because there's no runes just up, I think I walked a kind of a stupid way, but not walking through river I think is. It's alright. They had really good wards here, I can see. But if the creep wave is coming in to push, I will of course kill it. I was able to get both of those luckily. This would be an okay... I'm going to nuke this creep wave and then I'm going to go do stacks. I'm really worried about being mid because there's a really high chance that they are going to be ganking here. Oh, that was actually... I had to wand here. So the thing I actually messed up there, pretty small, but oh, that's unfortunate. I think Chachi could have gotten that kill. He ends up surviving either way. So the thing I messed up there was again raises. I messed up the raises because I messed up the raises, I had to do a second raise, and the second raise also messed up, which meant that I was within range of the PL, so I got killed. And by the way, the trick that Shadow Fiend can do, that's really important for raises, is that when you're turning for raises, and again you have to turn your hero. To turn your hero, what I normally do, let's say I'm gonna pause the game to explain this. So let's talk about Tusk right here. He's obviously facing this way, right? This is the way he's angling. If I want to raise over here, what I do is I click in that direction. And then as soon as I do that, I press S, because then your hero will complete the turn in about the time that you right click and then press S. So you'll complete the turn and press S, for example. But another way to do this is to cast your spell as you're turning, and it's another way to cancel your move command, basically. So what you do is, if you want to, and by doing that, your hero, there's this bug that you can exploit, maybe that's not a bug, but your hero will basically start casting raise as you're turning. So the fastest way to raise, and I never did that this game, I just know that it exists and it's really important. So if I want to raise behind me, for example, I right click behind me and I immediately press which raise I want. In this case, I'd want short raise, which is Z. So I right click behind me, I press Z, and as I'm turning around, I start casting raise. So rather than turning all the way around and then casting raise and increasing the amount of time to cast raise, I just click the way that I want to go and I press raise. And that's something that messes me up constantly. I think that's why my raises are so inefficient, is because I always turn and then try to raise instead of right clicking and casting it. That's the proper way to play Shadow Fiend and to get your raises off correctly.
Top tower is under attack.
So I'm alive. I do have enough for a Shadow Amulet, but I don't want to show that I have it yet because It's going to be a late Shadow Amulet, like my net worth should be higher, but you don't want your opponents to know that you're about to get that item until it actually comes up. It's really important that it's a little bit sudden, because the first time you get a Shadow Blade, then everybody finds out that there's a Shadow Blade, and you usually can get one kill out of it if they're the first person that finds out. So really recommend not holding the items until it's time. It's only a 2-stack, of course, but this camp did have the 20% magic resistance due to the small centaur. So normally those 2 large creeps would be like one-shots from right clicks. I could also draw my Aquila on my wand here if I wanted to increase the amount that I got from my bottle.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Oh, I actually didn't have my ultimate. I thought I had my ultimate this fight for some reason.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
I'm gonna try to kill the OD here. So I did not realize that they had an SK with Blink Dagger. But he's 4-0-2 now, so he's quite farmed. That was pretty greedy to do. See, at this point I said, oh, I should have ultied. I actually didn't have my ulti. If I had my ultimate, I would have stood on the trees about here, and I would have casted it. And by doing that, the AoE wouldn't have done much damage, but the debuff would have caught them, and they would have been lowered in movement speed. So I might have been able to like double raise somebody, and that's what you should be doing from range. Again, I'm really bad at that, but you should walk to a position where 2 of your raises will hit. Usually you do medium raise, long range raise. So I would do 450 range raise and a 700 range raise. I think the AoE is like 200 or something like that for radius, so it will catch 2 people. I'm just so bad at raises that it makes my early game Shadow Fiend really weak. I've got the right click mechanics down and I can like single raise somebody pretty easy, but I usually mess up other aspects. So anyways, still don't have my Shadow Blade yet, and that's pretty crappy. Again, I kind of want to like dual raise a wave and then back up in most cases, because I want to make sure that I don't get initiated on. I'm leveling up Presence of the Dark Lord when possible. I'm pushing a wave and back in a way so that they have to TP, because somebody has to defend the tower. And I'm going to go over here, fill up my mana pool. Almost got the Shadow Blade. I just need about 100 gold. I think Chachi could have killed that guy, but he died here, unfortunately.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
So Shadow Blade's ready.
Radiant's bottom tower is
Shadow Blade
under
is
attack.
the easiest build to execute, by the way, so if you guys are not very good Shadow Fiend players, I really recommend going that build instead. It's by far the most straightforward. If you go Blink, you have to be good at raising. You have to do like Blink raises, stuff like that. It's very difficult to execute that. You have to play Shadow Fiend a lot to get used to it. I'm trying to fill up my souls. I do see the Sand King to the left over here,
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
but I can clean up this camp pretty easy. Just trying to watch him, basically. Unfortunately, I wasn't watching mid. I could have TP'd for this, but then I would have the Shadow Blade and Vision, and I didn't want to do that. So instead I Shadow Blade from
Dire's
far
middle
away,
tower
and
has
I'm going to go
fallen.
look for a kill. So the way that we have to kill the Sand King is the Snowball has to be coming from the Tusk, and then I have to hit him so that he doesn't blink. But the Snowball came a little bit earlier. I should have said something maybe. I don't know if he had dust or not. He actually did not have a dust. He should have a dust. But what I should have done is just hit the Sand King from Shadow Blade. That way it cancels his Blink Dagger, and then he can't blink away. All he would be able to do is Burrow Strike away. I kind of wanted to go for it again as well, but this is too late now because the Snowball is again too far away. I think the range needed to be something like 300 units or something like that to make it really work. Seems pretty clear that there is going to be a fight mid. I probably should be going in treads before I go invis, because I'm going to cast. Just trying to lead off the PL, but then he changed. This is just rough, man. Oh, then I messed up my raise, and now I got an OD, and
Radiant's top tower is under
just
attack.
don't really know where the PL went. Oh my god, I'm so embarrassed by this part. It's so bad. I wasn't sure if that was the real one.
Radiant's top tower is under
And then he
attack.
jumped. And then I accidentally clicked his illusion. So I lost my bonus damage and then he TP'd. I could have literally just casted any of my close range Shadow Rays and he would have died. But I accidentally clicked on the wrong illusion was the problem. So I lost the bonus damage. So he got away for free. That should have been another kill. That guy should have 100% died. Now it's very clear that I have a Shadow Blade, so they're more likely to carry detection at this stage, so now I can't really rely on my Shadow Blade as much. But at least I didn't die, I guess. That was truly bad, though. So, back to heal, and then I'm going to go farm for a little bit, because I want to try to power level my BKB just a little bit. I'm just going to speed this part up. Oops, maybe not. Potentially looking for an OD kill. He does have a haste rune, though, so it's a little bit scary. It's a great stun from the Witch Doctor, and I did get a ranged raise off, so he will die here. A little bit of tread switching here. Witch Doctor ulti does a lot of damage in this case because of my aura reducing armor by 5, so it's kind of a nice combo. Witch Doctor plus Shadow Fiend worked out nicely.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Now, one of the important things I did versus the Sand King was I tread switched again. I was on strength treads, but I went to agility, I wanded, and then I went to strength. It gives you a bigger edge. It makes a big difference. Got a tiny over here. I do have my ultimate. I do know now that he has a ward there, and it definitely seemed like he did. But if I was paying better attention, maybe Shadow Bladed earlier, I could have potentially gotten that tiny kill with a Requiem. Would have been good. So, kill creep waves. Maybe could have stuck around to kill one more, but farming this large camp, you can kind of guess where the creeps are. I missed one of my races there, but my right click damage is so high it doesn't really matter. I could probably just do Ancients at this stage. Should probably kill the big one first. And it's DPS a little bit. Clear there's the fight. I'm gonna wand Shadow Blade here. They do have sentries. Clear sentry.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
So this is kind of how you should gank on this hero, and it's kind of how you should gank on all gank heroes. A little bit of ganking, a lot of farming, a little bit of ganking, a lot of farming. It's the most safe way to guarantee that you're not gonna lose the game because you overgank and the ganks go bad. You still guarantee yourself some farm. I knew that was the real one. Did that for the slow, basically. We do get the kill. Oh, that's right. I just need to hit him so he can't blink. I actually double raised there for once. That was good. That was a super big kill, though. That was a good catch by the Tusk. Super big kill. And now I'm very close to BKB. I've got a DD, so I'm gonna pop that with the Shadow Blade. This should be an easy 3-hit. Oh, he actually had a sentry. And I just decided to deny the ward because it was almost dead anyways, so not a big deal. I think he's gonna get the other one though. Got my BKB coming. To be really worried right now. This is all tree juking here. I was dusted, so brought my BKB back just in case that we were still gonna fight here. But it didn't seem very likely. So what I do now is slightly important, but not ultra important. I basically want to prevent that tower from just instantly dying. So I swapped the items here. Basically, all I need to do is raise the creep wave and then get back. I don't have to commit to death, but as long as I kill the creep wave and buy enough time. I didn't do a very good job. I only raised like 2 creeps there, but the important thing is killing the creeps and not letting the tower die. So at this point, I sell my wand. Or stop using it for the rest of the game because I ran out of item slots. But I'm pretty farmed at this point. My net worth is higher than my opponent's. I have a BKB, I have a mobility / gank item, and my overall HP and damage are very good. So this is the good part of Shadow Fiend. Now Tiny is farming somewhere else on the map, but I'm not really that scared because Tiny is more of like an anti-support carry than he is an anti-carry carry. And because that tower is so low, there's a really low chance that they're even going to defend this. But either way, we are going to get together and do the push here.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Again, very low chance that they TP in, but if they do, they're going to be south of the tower, which is why I'm standing up here. Always want to stand farther away from where they TP in, so they can't just initiate the wave like right when they want to. Again, push towers, very easy. Shadow Fiend gets 2 int per level, so that's an extra 26 mana every time. Weren't sure if those were real or not. Clearly that's the real one. Oh, I remember this fight. I felt like we were more engaged in this fight than we really were. My medium raise there was poor. I should have right-clicked 2 more times. But we're very out of position now. I used Shadow Blade to run slightly faster here. I got craggy, unfortunately. Did kill that guy. I probably should have TP'd here, I think. I did kill the PL before I died, but I probably should have just TP'd. That would have been the easier thing to do. It wasn't an awful fight, but it was not a good fight. That wasn't terrible, honestly. Odie got a lot, though, I guess. He got 1,700 gold. So a lot from Odie that game, or that fight. That was huge. That was probably the worst thing about it. He got a ton of net worth. So it was a bad fight. I wasted my BKB. I used it. It was almost the right fight, but we didn't have disables. They weren't really forced in with us. All the Tusk abilities missed, so they weren't actually going to stay there around forever. So I'm up in 30. Told my team to defend the tower. All good, all good. He's got a BKB now. So this is one of the ways that Shadow Fiend's actually good against Odie. If Odie pops his BKB, nobody can stun him. But he still takes physical damage, and minus armor auras still affect him. So because of that, if he pops a BKB and I pop BKB, Odie can't use his orb, he can't use his ultimate. I can't use my raises or my spells, but I don't really care, because I still hit really hard, and I still have a -6 armor aura. So in fact, Shadow Fiend's pretty good against Odie in the mid game at this stage. As long as I'm around the same net worth as the Odie, he's going to have one medium-sized item, like Atos for example, and I'm going to have one medium-sized item, like Shadow Blade and my BKB as well. Now ulti there didn't do much damage because I didn't have that many souls, but he really should use his diffusal blades more here. I was a little scared about missing raises, so I just played it really safe there. Just right clicked. It would have been better if I raised for damage. Oh yeah, I found Odie here. And this is Odie BKB versus BKB. I just Shadow Blade to catch up. I wanted to get closer before I break invis. Now he's regenerated.
Middle tower is under attack.
So that was really good. And that last fight was a perfect example. Odie actually can't fight me. The only way that he won that fight is if he got a couple hits in before I BKB'd, because then he would do pure damage and also lower my int more. But he only got one hit in before I popped BKB. So SF easily beats a lot of carries that are 1v in 1v1s that aren't agility based and that grab BKB because their armor doesn't get very high, which is exactly what the case was here. So from that fight, my net worth really shot up, and that's basically how SF has to ultra accelerate, is by winning team fights, since he is a good team fight hero, decent gank hero. And now I just accelerate into a Scotty, which is going to increase my HP by 750, increase my damage and attack speed by 25, increase my int pool, give me a slow, which will be good against OD when he pops BKB. All these things are going to be really useful, basically. So I'm just going to AFK farm for a little bit, because I'm close to Mascoti. Stack Ancients whenever you can, kill them afterwards. Single raise here, over to the jungle. Our team's ward vision was really good this game. Helped a lot. I was a little worried about them being in our jungle here, which is why I Shadow Bladed over, but I kind of put myself in a dangerous position by using Shadow Blade just to get to that point. So I'm very close to my item basically, and I really don't want to take a fight. I've got no HP, my team's not here. So farming a little safe is definitely important. So kill these. Finish the Ancients, swing in mid to farm. PA did take these, unfortunately. So I went for the safer route, which was move over here, and go top. A little dangerous. They definitely could dive this. But my team was kind of close now, so. Really just didn't want to die. So sell Aqua at this point because I need a TP and the bottle's really good to have due to runes like DD, haste, stuff like that. So there's my Ice Scotty. So now I hit very hard. I've got a slow, got a minus armor. My armor's okay. It's not amazing. In fact, the Scotty actually gives you the same armor about as... No, actually less. It gives you 721. Actually, it's exactly the same armor as an Aquila gives you. Isn't that incredible? The exact same armor that Aquila gives. I used Shadowblade there because they very likely had wards in that area. So I'm just running past. And because OD was here as well, I just wanted to hide. So I'm going to sit right here. If OD comes past me, I'll fight him with BKB. But if he doesn't, then I'm going to wait until my next Shadowblade. So I don't really want them to know that I'm in the area, basically. Definitely want to fight him. Pop BKB, so he can't do anything to me. What does OD do? Like, he actually can't do anything to me there. The Scotty makes a huge difference. Lowers his attack speed, lowers his movement speed. All he can do is TP. But if the Tusk Snowball or Walrus punches him, then he just dies. So with that, all we have to do is defend the split push, and then we can take Roche, basically. And we have to defend the tower, because we can't just let PL take it for free. And I think I waited around for one more creep wave nuke, because it would push it a little bit harder. If I left now, the PL could very easily just show up and take this creep wave. So I should have probably Shadowbladed to get there faster. I don't think I did that. That was a big mistake, I think. Because I just walked. I think a tree respawned and it killed my Pathian there. Alright, there's my Shadowblade. I should have used it right away though, I think. So this is kind of scary because we don't have very good vision to the left. But with our Witch Doctor there, I felt safe. Drop the TP. I grab Aegis at this point because I do more damage than PA does by far. At some stage PA will do more, but for now I definitely do more. You guys might also be wondering why don't I buy a Silver Edge. The reason is that Silver Edge doesn't actually increase your damage very much. All it increases your damage by is like, gives you a Sange worth of damage, which isn't good on an agility hero. It does the maim, which is kind of good, but it's an extra 2,000 gold, something like that, 2,500 gold. It's really expensive, basically. Costs a lot of money to upgrade it, and it's better to grab these other items like BKB, Scotty, things like that. Fast Silver Edge should only be done if you're against a PA, for example, or maybe a Huskar, and you don't have physical damage. I wouldn't need a Silver Edge against a Huskar because Shadow Fiend hits hard physically and does minus armor. But if I was, what's a good example? Say like Luna or something, and you go Shadowblade, it'd be okay for her to grab Silver Edge because you can use it to reduce his magic damage because you do a lot of magic damage. That's a really kind of bad example. So BKB's up, Aegis is ready. This is a little dangerous to be here. Could definitely be ganked here pretty easily. Does have a Diffuse the Blade.
This should make my life easier.
I asked my team to go back and smoke. Look how many sentries they put down. They bought all those sentries literally just because I have a Shadow Blade. So that's why it's important to sometimes gank, but not always. Because any team that overreacts like this is just going to get screwed. So we smoke. See some heroes bottom. I Shadow Blade and I go in first because that way I'm going to be able to tell where the heroes are. As soon as my smoke goes away, I know that there's a hero nearby. And there's a hero. Snowball is always going to stun Sanking out of that, so it's a good counter to Sanking. And we had a dust afterwards, so no way for him to get out. Push out mid, which should guarantee us a tier 2 tower. But usually if you do want a tower push, just get a hero kill first. Do a smoke like that. Because all of a sudden we don't have to worry about Sanking for 36 seconds. Or he has to buy back. We're a little bit not spread out enough, I would say. This looks like a pretty good time to fight. I just bought BKB just in case, and now I just permanently slow him. My damage is about... It's good, it's not amazing right now, but I'm more of a tanky pusher. That's basically how SF works. But now we got a second kill, which means we can now go high ground. I told them to put a ward down on high ground because I was worried about either Tiny Blink initiating or Sanking Blink initiating. This is okay to do if you know that you're going to have enough damage to take the tower. They're split pushing us, which is scary, so I told my team to go back to defend against that, because I felt like we could get
Dire's top tower has fallen.
It's a
Radiant's
little bit
middle
off. We did have a sentry down, which is good. Sanking just died.
Dire's top tower.
I should have hit him here.
Dire's structures
I should have hit him before starting to raise. That way there would have been slow on him.
Radiant's middle barracks are under attack.
Looks like Tiny was going to get our racks, unfortunately.
Dire's top
Now, I don't know why this happened, but unfortunately the backdoor regen went into place. I mean, we had creeps in there. They went away, obviously. I shadow bladed here.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
That's my Aegis. I probably should have backed up. Shadow Blade in 5. Put a little slow down. I think. Should hit the
Look away.
yeah, I just well, he missed. I feel like he could have stuck with me, but it's like they went for Timber Saw instead. I was hoping to get a good rune. I only got a bounty though, unfortunately. Something like a regen would have been amazing here. So I decided to come back because I wanted to see if I could ulti a guy, like if they'd be greedy enough, because I had my ult in 10 seconds. I've also got 6,000 gold. I could have spent this before I went for this kill. Also saw the courier headed over here, so I thought maybe I could ulti this. I was hoping the that the Tiny would go farm this camp. Instead I went for this. So they killed me before my ult went off, which meant I didn't get experience for the Tiny kill, but it doesn't matter because I was level 25 anyways. I'm not entirely sure if that was worth it. I killed Sanking and Tiny, I guess. If we show the fight recap. I don't know why they didn't include Sanking losing gold. Did he not lose any gold? Did he buy out? Maybe he had no gold? I'm not sure. It says it wasn't worth it though. OD definitely got net worth out of it. But I also killed Tiny for his dieback, which means that he was dead for 100 seconds versus me being dead for a long time because I was level 25. I don't know. I'm dead basically the same time that Tiny is. And it might have been better to save his dieback for when it was an actual fight, because if it's his dieback, then he's dead ultra long. That's better to use when you're trying to push than it is when nothing's going on. So I felt like that was just a bad play. But I pushed my limits, and I saw what I could do, and there was only so much. I probably should have hit Ray's hit on the Tiny. It might have been better. To hit for about 300 physical, if he has AC... he doesn't. Might have been okay what I did here. But I'm alive now, I've got Butterfly. This stage you sell a bottle, I think, for TP scrolls. I also felt like if I had lifesteal in that last fight versus the Tiny OD that I could have killed both of them. Or if I had the Butterfly. I mean, I had a lot of net worth, so obviously I could have gotten more out of it. Gotta get my souls up. Butterfly's good though, 60 attack speed, bunch more armor, not to mention the evasion on heroes that aren't going to want to buy MKBs. So PL doesn't want to buy MKB, Tiny doesn't want to buy MKB, OD doesn't want to buy MKB. That's why Butterfly was so good this game. Now I kind of just right click everything.
Illusion.
Don't forget you can activate your Butterfly to run faster. I actually remembered most of the time this game.
Radiant's bottom tower.
And I'm kind of just farming in the jungle over here because I'm not entirely sure where my opponents are. So if they did gank the PA, for example, I would be nearby. Also sell my bottle back to get a Helm of the Dominator. 5 more armors. Pretty nice to have. I could have taken a creep over, I guess. But I didn't end up doing that.
Is under attack.
Tally ho!
Saw Tiny over here. Alright, PA blew up that OD, man. Losing flutter. And that lifesteal. PA is doing really good damage now. She has Abyssal Battle Fury. It's good. It's a good fight. Pick off the Tiny for nothing. I got my ultimate off, which took out half of OD's HP for some reason. And then PA like crit him to kill him. That's good. So I sent somebody to the bot lane to push that out so we could take the tier 2, which would allow us to get a double Rex. If we all went mid, we'd have to kill that, run back to bottom, then take the tier 2. So this allowed us to do it a little bit faster, just to send one hero over there ahead of time. So we won the fight so bad that we should take at least a 2 Rex. Guy back from Lich, which really does not do much. So then I started killing Moonwells, but we should have gone straight for buildings. So I said we're going to kill one tier 4 before they respawn. So my damage is really high. Might as well kill at least one tier 4.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
Now we all back. Kind of dangerous to sit around with the SK in the game. But we cleaned their base up pretty good. Not to mention we killed a lot of the Moonwells. You might think that killing Moonwells is a little bit unnecessary, but what it does is it means that when creeps get into the base, they don't spend their time killing Moonwells, they spend time hitting the tier 4 instead. So it actually allows you to kill the throne a lot easier later on. It does help. Purchasing Satanic now. It was either Satanic or I guess I could have Silver Edged, or I could have just not have Helm of the Dominator and I could go Daedalus instead, but considering my survivability this game, I felt better going for medium damage with high survivability than going for medium survivability with high damage. I felt more comfortable going that, considering I also had a PA to back me up. If I was the only carry this game, I would have gone for more damage and tried to end the game, most likely, rather than going for medium damage. Because if you go medium damage with high HP and they have more carry potential than you, at some point you just don't kill them fast enough and they kill you. So if you're the only carry, I recommend going more damage than tank. But if you're not the only carry, then I recommend, and you're playing SF for example, I recommend going more tank than damage. I think that works a lot better. So farming neutrals, farming neutrals.
This should make my life easier.
This is kind of a bad idea. In fact, it was a really bad idea. I used Flutter to get away, and as soon as I break vision, then there's pretty much no way they catch me. But space created, I guess. It wasn't good. And it's a reality of me buying a Satanic. I spent 6,000 gold on an item that helps me lifesteal. Like, that's not good against a Tiny, right? If I had a Daedalus there or an AC, yeah, maybe I killed the guy, but the position I was in was clearly not enough to get those kills. I really didn't need to pop my Satanic there. In fact, it was kind of unnecessary. It's kind of nice he drew that Destructor ult to his team. Still been a good time for a Satanic. I floated away. And then the PA just kind of killed everybody is what happened there. That was literally all PA. That was PA. PA won that fight. I like tanked a bunch of damage, but PA killed. The fact that I wasted my Satanic was awful though. Like, if that fight went a little bit better, I just would have died. So that was shit. If I had my Satanic rather than wasting it when I first started hitting the Tiny, then I could have actually just fought in this area and hit the OD most likely and just lifestealed from it, assuming I didn't get stunned. So that stage the game is won. Sell my treads, bought a bunch of items for fun. Only thing left is sell Silver Edge, buy something else, maybe a Daedalus, probably Daedalus, and then get Moonshark. That's it. That is the Shadow Fiend. I hope you guys learned a bunch. Go out and tread switch, guys. And let me know if you guys want me to show you how I got down to that equation. It's mostly I used a lot of Excel spreadsheets to think about the ways that I had to do the math and what needed to be figured out. And then I did a bunch of algebra to simplify. That was about it. So it was pretty straightforward math-wise. But if you guys want to see it, I can maybe make a 5-minute video or something showing how I did it. Knowing me, it'll probably be a 20-minute video. But yeah, I had 710 GPM and I had no Midas, so that's pretty standard for a winning Shadow Fiend game. Your GPM should be really high. Alright, thanks for watching, guys. With that said, don't go play Shadow Fiend. He's a bad hero right now. But if you guys want to practice him, you can. He's not awful, but he's definitely not good. At high MMRs, at least. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. See you later. Bye.